Hello everyone, I'm Bruce of Off-Road Trails and Tales, and today I'm going to try to install a GMRS radio on our Jeep Wrangler Willis. I don't have any experience trying to do something like this, but we'll see how well it goes. And one thing, if I'm not successful, you'll never see this video. Alright, so here's what we have. I bought this Midland 15 watt GMRS radio from Amazon for about $275. And inside that you get these things. There is the radio itself and a mounting bracket for the radio. There is a 12 volt power cable that you can plug into your 12 volt accessory outlet. There are two types of antennas. One is this magnetic antenna that just mounts on a surface with a cable. Problem with that is that there's not very much steel or iron in the Jeep. The hood and the body parts are either aluminum or composite material, so it's going to be hard to use that. And there's an antenna cable. Now the other kind of cable is this smaller ghost antenna with, I forget, about a three gain of 3, and that's the one that we'll try to install. There is a microphone with cable and a microphone mounting bracket. Now the antenna itself came with a mounting bracket, at least this kind of antenna came with this kind of mounting bracket. And I couldn't see how that's going to work on the Jeep JL series and probably other series as well. This is more for a semi-truck with the external, the passenger and driver's side mirrors, because this will fit very well on the support bars for those exterior mirrors on a truck, and those are the bolts. And so it's just too small, for example, for the roll bars on the Jeep. So I couldn't see how that's going to work. I bought this bracket for about $29 from Amazon that mounts on the side of the Jeep by the hood. And this is actually for the passenger side. Most of the videos that I've seen show the external antenna being mounted on the driver's side. Doing some research on Copilot, it looks like that's a matter of kind of history. At one time, apparently, there were some mounting brackets on earlier Jeep Wrangler series that were specifically there to mount antenna brackets. But I couldn't see any reason why it cannot be mounted on the passenger side, and actually, then you don't have to run cable underneath the dashboard. I also purchased a set of plastic panel pry bars, thinking may need those, bought those from Amazon for not too much money. There is the box that goes with it. So that's what we have, and we'll see how that works. So here's a summary of what we want to try to do. And the first thing is to try to mount this bracket on the side of our Jeep. This cowl piece will come off, and then try to snake the antenna cable, since this bracket is for the antenna, but try to snake this antenna cable then around underneath the cowl and through some of the insulation there, or weather stripping there, and down into the passenger cabin. Have the antenna cable come underneath here, and we'll mount the GMRS radio on the side of the console there. And then we can, well, hopefully, eventually we'll have the power connect underneath. There's hopefully some connections under there for the power, and probably connected to one of these auxiliary switches here. So that's the overall plan. We'll see how it works. Okay, so now we want to take this cowl piece off, and the Jeep comes with a little toolkit which has everything needed to take these cowl pieces off. So let's do that. Just take these bolts out. Alright, so we have all the bolts off, and now this cowl piece will just slide out, and we'll set that aside. Now, discovered a problem. I did want to use a bracket that fits on the passenger side, so it fit in here, but the problem was that the bolts that came with it are really for, I think, probably for a JK. Although the kit said that it would work for a JL, the bolt just, it won't work. It's just too small. So what I had to do is go ahead and buy a kit for the driver's side, and the driver's side does come with a bolt that looks very nice and will fit in the slot. So that was a fix. Now I don't know that you couldn't go ahead and use the bracket for the driver's side on this. It would just be mounted on the forward screw hole here. I'm not sure that the hood won't interfere with the antenna when you try to raise the hood, but it's a possibility. Okay, so one of the things we'll have to do now is run the antenna cable through here next to the door. Now, this right now the end of the cable is very thick, very wide, so that won't get through there very easily. But these antenna connections do come where this end piece does unscrew, and so you have a much smaller end to try to fish through there. So we can try to do that now. And we'll probably take some fiddling around, but I've seen other people try to go right up in through here, so that's what we'll try to do. Okay, this is where the cable came into the passenger compartment up here. Not sure if you can see that very well, but it's able to pull this back and find the cable down in there and then start pulling on it and kind of try to move it all the way over to this side. Then I'm able to also pull this or pry this panel piece off. Since there's these brackets, they pop off fairly easily, especially using that panel pry bar. And there was a trick I saw in one of the videos that, yeah, to get that panel started, to get a little bit start, you can push on this end and that'll help pop the panel up a little bit to get the panel pry bar in there. So now what we want to do is fish this cable down through some of these holes and then into the passenger compartment. And I did unlatch the glove box there. This clip here on the glove box, if you move that the right way, it will release on the glove box, and this prong here you can get that detached as well. There's a video on how to do that. Alright, so after getting the antenna cable fished into the passenger cabin, we can put the cowl piece back on. We'll have our cable coming out back here just close to the antenna mount. So something like that. And then we can start to put everything back together. Might point out that there is this little cylindrical spacer that comes with it that I think is supposed to go behind here, so that helps prevent direct contact between the mount and the Jeep. And fortunately that new bolt does fit perfectly, so we won't tighten that all up quite yet, but now we'll get the antenna. Okay, so now we can put the antenna together, antenna mount. I left a little slack here just so I can make sure I have more than enough, but let me pull that slack through now. Okay. Alright, so presumably this should fit on here like this. And then we can screw the antenna itself onto this, but we might as well go ahead. Just want to make sure that that fits, but we might as well go ahead and tighten up all the bolts now. And now we can screw the antenna on. And there we go. So now what we want to do is fish the antenna cable underneath here so that it doesn't show, and we'll wrap it up nicely with and use some Velcro straps. The plastic ties, I've heard, may not be the best to use because they tend to maybe cause a little bit more wear or pressure, so we'll use some Velcro straps. Okay, now we need to attach the bracket to the center console. It seemed to me the best place to mount it, so the radio would mount something like that. We want to make sure that we don't cover up this little access port here. I think there's probably a screw under there to get access to the console. And I saw a trick on Trail Recon that Brad on Trail Recon used some Velcro strips to attach things. So I thought I would try that, so we can put some a Velcro strip here on the center console, and then also put one on the bracket. So let's try to do that. So that actually seems to work pretty well. You could use the screws and screw the bracket into the console. I did look on YouTube to be sure that there's not anything behind the console, any electric cables or anything like that, and according to YouTube, there's nothing under there that would cause a problem, especially for short screws that would come with the kit. Okay, I also used some Velcro strips to tidy up the cable, since there's a lot of extra antenna cable. So now we just need to find a place up underneath there to tuck all this extra cable and get the cable hooked up to the radio. All right, well, let's finish up installing things on the inside of the Jeep. Well, one of the things that will help get everything fixed up is to take the glove compartment box out. And on the side, there's a kind of a little plastic strut on the side. You probably can't see that very well. But if you push that or pull that up, it will release. And then you can reach up above here and, whoops, I'm trying to do that one-handed, so I wasn't able to hold it. But yeah, you can see that this strut will release on the side, and then the whole glove compartment will rotate there on the bottom and come out. And so now you have access, and just gives you a little bit more room. All right, so what we want to do, and it's kind of hard to work underneath the dashboard here, there's not a lot of room, but we want to take our power cord, and the black wire is the one that has some mostly black on it. That's our ground, and we want to put some sort of connection. I put a ring connection on this. And another reason for taking the glove compartment box out is that these screws here can serve as a ground connection. I've seen that on a couple of videos. So I'm going to fish that ring connector that I've soldered on, and fish that up underneath, and screw that into that nut where it will serve as a ground connection. All right, so you can see I've got that connected there. It's a pretty solid connection. And now you need to find the auxiliary wiring, the ends of those wires. There's 4 auxiliary switches, of course, and the wiring for those auxiliary switches is up underneath the dash. There's also some wiring under the hood too, but I think it's easier to connect to the ones under the dashboard here. And so that wire, if I can get the lights there, those ends of the wire are running up underneath the dash, and so you need to find where the ends are, and I think usually they're on the left side, and those ends are wrapped pretty securely. It took me a long time to get the wrapping off the end of those. They have some cloth and electrical tape, so I had to use a razor blade to try to cut through that and get the wires exposed. And the one that, auxiliary 4 is, I think, the one that will work the best. So there's 4 auxiliary switches. 2 of them are higher amperage, and this blue one is one of the lower amperage, which will work just fine. So what I've done is, you can see the bluish part, maybe you can, but there's some blue on that, indicating that's the auxiliary switch 4. So I stripped the ends of that. I stripped the insulation off the end of that, and also strip the insulation off the end of our power cord. So what I want to do now is twist those together and use a wire nut to make a reasonably secure connection. Alright, so that's all done. If you can see it, so we've got our connection there. Okay, if I can get the light in the right place. So we've got our connection made. I wrapped this with a little bit of electrical tape, and I took a Velcro strap to try to really get everything secure under there. Now what we want to do is just take all this power cable, and we want to try to tuck it up underneath this carpeting here underneath, and then go underneath the plastic. So we can do that, and then we should be about done. Alright, the last thing we need to do is set the auxiliary switch 4. So go into the screen on your Jeep Wrangler and go to Vehicle. You should be able to switch, or you should be able to scroll up or down depending on where it was last set, but you should find something that says auxiliary switches, and you click that. And we want to set up auxiliary switch 4, so we'll click that, and you have a few choices. Type, you can either do latching or momentary. Momentary means that the switch will only be powered when you're pressing the button down, and we want it to be more permanent than that, so we'll choose latching. The other choice, another choice, is power, battery, or ignition. Battery, I believe, will mean that the radio will always be powered, even if the vehicle is off, and be powered off the battery. The other choice, which is when I chose ignition, the radio or the auxiliary switch 4 will only be powered when the ignition is on, or when the accessories is on. And I think that'll do us. Recall last state, I think is what we want. And you should be set to go. And if we go down to auxiliary switch 4, you can see that we can press it on or off. The orange button means that it's, orange light means that it's on. And if we turn the radio on, it should work. And there you go. One last thing that I could mention before leaving is the antenna location. The directions, of course, say to mount the antenna at the highest point that you can on the Jeep. But everything I've seen shows the antenna mounted on the side of the Jeep like this. That's what the bracket is made for, and videos I've seen on installation show it there. So it's a little bit curious. I did a little bit of search on Copilot, that large language model, and it says that should work out just fine. That it claims anyway within Copilot, and what do I know? I'm not an expert in this area by any means, but Copilot said that actually the metal of the Jeep hood and the cowl, etc., well, it actually improves the antenna performance. So go figure, but that's where most of them are mounted. Thank you very much, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up.